The future is driverless vehicles, and it frightens me. But it's not the technology that scares me. I'm concerned how officials and legislators are responding right now to these vehicles that are on the roads in our country, and how they might respond in the future to try to control these vehicles, and in the process, to control us. So today I'm going to walk through what's going on right now in San Francisco with autonomous vehicles. We're going to look at how officials are responding there to those vehicles and how they're trying to control them and what that might mean for us and our future as drivers. Or maybe it's our future as passengers. But anyway, San Francisco is having major problems with its fleet of driverless cars essentially panicking when a fire truck comes along.
They stop in the middle of the street and turn their emergency blinkers on anytime they see flashing lights on an emergency vehicle.
It's apparently so bad that the city is fielding multiple 911 calls per day about the driverless cars themselves, and they're actually impacting the ability of first responders to go where they need to go.
Firefighters describe driverless cars rolling into fire scenes, running over hoses, even having to break windshields to stop a vehicle.
The technology is not ready for prime time.
If you recall, I did a recent video about there being two sets of laws in this country, and it makes me think, what if I drove over a fire hose? What if I blocked access to a fire truck with my vehicle? I'd probably be arrested, my car might be impounded, or it might simply be smashed to bits by the firefighters moving it out of the way to get where they need to go. Yet, these driverless cars seem to get a free pass. It's as if somebody in our country really wants these driverless cars to succeed and for us to all be riding around in the passenger seat. But the police aren't faring much better with these cars either. This San Francisco officer stopped a driverless car for driving after dark without its headlights on. He was able to get the vehicle to stop, and then he realized it contained no driver. But then the car drove itself away. If you or I did that, we'd be charged with eluding the police. The car seems to pull itself back over, perhaps realizing the error of its ways. But it turns out that some person in the control room had to manually stop the vehicle the second time.
Crews says the vehicle initially stopped to yield to the police cruiser, and that once it was clear the vehicle was the subject of the traffic stop, Crews personnel directed the vehicle to pull over.
And this is how the Crews vehicles are designed to operate. You can see for yourself in this video that Crews produced to teach first responders how to interact with their vehicles.
When a first responder arrives, they should immediately contact the Crews Critical Response Line.
So wait. If an officer pulls over one of these vehicles for a traffic infraction or suspicion of a crime, they're supposed to call tech support?
I forgot to turn this thing.
Hello, IT.
Something's wrong with my computer.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Or what if the car has just run over somebody and the fire department needs to disable the car to make sure it doesn't drive off and go kill somebody else? Don't worry, Crews has a solution for that too.
Before we start to interact with the vehicle, it is always safe to stabilize the AV with chalk blocks.
Yes, every beat cop needs to start carrying chalk blocks in the trunk of their car. But where things get really hairy is if a cop wants a driverless car to stop, but it doesn't. These passengers in this car are simply laughing it off when their car won't heed the police's commands.
We cannot move, we're sorry. This car won't let us move.
What if the cop was on edge already? What if it's dark? What if he has reason to believe there's an armed and potentially dangerous person in the car, and the car isn't stopping according to his commands? Who can't imagine a scenario where a police officer opens fire on an autonomous car? Call me a conspiracy theorist, but the only viable solution, in my opinion, is for the officers and other first responders to have some kind of a kill switch to disable a driverless vehicle. We know that crews can disable their vehicles from afar.
The escalation team can do a number of tasks remotely, including unlocking the vehicle, confirming the mode of the AV, and ensuring that the vehicle remains in a safe, stationary position.
So there's no reason that the police dispatch or emergency communications can't be given that same ability. Do you want a car that the police can disable at will? I certainly don't, but I don't think we'll have a choice. It's for everyone's safety, they'll say. I can already picture MAD pushing driverless cars that can't possibly drive themselves drunk, even if they pose other hazards to the passengers and other pedestrians. Eventually, I just lost a light. Eventually, the cost to own an old-fashioned gas guzzler via insurance, registration, and even gas itself will simply be prohibitive for most people to even consider it. But what you really want to know is, can you get a ticket in a driverless car? Who would even get the ticket? Well, if you're a Parm Sharma, yes, you can get a ticket while you're not even sitting behind the wheel of a driverless car.
Isn't this cool?
No, not cool, according to the California Highway Patrol, who arrested 25-year-old Param Sharma for reckless driving. He spent a night in jail, and his Tesla was impounded for a year, but he went right out and bought another.
Which leads me to wonder, how could the police ever prove that he drove the car? If he's simply sitting in the back seat, that's only proof that he's in the car. Fortunately for the police, he'll just announce that he's guilty on Instagram anyway. But for the rest of us, the answer will come from the actual words of the law in question. Let's look at Virginia DUI law for an example of what I mean. It shall be unlawful for any person to drive or operate any motor vehicle while under the influence. What does it mean to operate a vehicle for purposes of Virginia DUI law? It's a concept that's much broader than sitting behind the wheel with your hands on the steering wheel and moving the car down the road. Virginia courts have actually held that it is a DUI for a passenger to grab the steering wheel from the driver of the car. Under Virginia law, the person in the cruise control room is absolutely controlling the motive power of the vehicle, so they are operating the car for purposes of a DUI. But what about a person who stumbles out of the bar having a few too many to drink and summons a driverless car with their phone? Are they operating the car at that point? Yes. In my opinion, under Virginia DUI law, they are controlling the motive power of the car. Therefore, they are operating it for purposes of a DUI. But surely, as a society, we don't want somebody who's trying to make the right decision and not get behind the wheel themselves. We don't want that person to be guilty of a DUI, right? Autonomous vehicles are definitely one area of technology where the law will definitely have to scramble to catch up. Because in theory, autonomous vehicles should be immune from committing a DUI. They operate the same, no matter how drunk the passengers might happen to be. But what if a cruise vehicle kills someone? Is Chevy to blame? Is it the person in the control room who could have stopped it perhaps? What about the passengers? If they hadn't summoned the car and been riding in the car at that time, it wouldn't have been on that street and killed that person. The police are definitely going to want a magic kill switch to disable autonomous cars when they want it to stop or when they think it's a threat to safety or some kind of public emergency. And then there's the road rage problem. To learn more about how our technology is destroying our privacy and our freedom, check out this next video. And even if you're a passenger in a driverless car, don't talk to the police.